Yeah, we'll see this game between Parham Maghsoodloo versus Magnus Carlsen. Uh, this was this was played in Rapid World Chess Championship in Samarkand, Uzbekistan, 2023. So let's see the game. White Parham starts with d4 and then Carlsen plays knight f6, c4, e6, knight f3, d5. Okay, so we have this queen's gambit declined opening on the board. Yeah, he has not captured, he has declined. Bishop e7, bishop f4. So both are developing their pieces. Castle e3 and then c5. So you can see a very normal setup. Yeah, both have developed the pieces. Black has already done castle. White is about to do it by moving the bishop. He can do it anytime. So now white's turn and white plays d cross c5. So he has decided to force black to move his bishop again one more time. Bishop cross c5. And then a3 idea, b4 and then c5 and then play with this queen side majority. That's the idea. So black plays knight c6, queen c2, development of the queen, and the idea is to give this square for a rook maybe. Okay, so maybe then it will be good for white to have the rook there. Rook e8, Carlsen continues its development. Rook d1, yes, as per the plan, he got it. And then e5, very interesting. Yeah. Normally, you would like to move the queen somewhere first, but then there can be a problem. Okay, because already there are attacks, and you can't move the queen somewhere because then there'll be only two supports. So here he has to play something like this, and this is the best move here in this position, e5. So the bishop has to move, and bishop g5, he pinned the knight, the d4. Okay, yeah, so here if you count the attack support, you'll understand that white has now one, two, three attacks on this pawn. And black has one, two, three, four supports. So he has enough supports to this pawn. No problem. Now the knight is attacked, but you can't take it as the pawn is pinned. But white wants to move the knight anyway because he wants to take the advantage of this pin. Yeah, so there are pins. Yeah, white had pinned the pawn, and white has also pinned this knight. So white wanted to use this pin more than this one. Yeah, so he moved the knight, and now there is a problem here on f6 because anytime now white can capture with this or this, and then black has to take with the pawn and open this side, which is not good for him. So what to do? You have to move the bishop back. Bishop e7. Carlsen played that. Bishop cross f6. Bishop cross f6. Okay, and then bishop d3. So there is no need to capture this right now. You can capture afterwards. So it's a good idea to continue development and give a threat over here now. There are two attacks, one support. So black has to save this, and he saved it by moving this pawn, g6. Here, finally, white captured this. Knight cross f6. Black has to take with the queen. Carlsen took it. Queen cross f6. Bishop e4. Because what was the threat? The threat was this e4 now. Fork. Okay, though there are two attacks. But if you take then capture, and then there can be more attacks, and this file can be opened and there can be problems. So you have to be careful, and that's why bishop e4 to stop this, number one, and number two, attack on this. Yeah, so anytime if you want, you can even exchange the bishop for the knight. Bishop f5. So Carlsen says yes, if you want to exchange, you exchange with this bishop and not with the knight. Okay, why? Because yeah, The bishop was not doing anything at that side right now. So he had to develop it anyway. So he said, yes, why not just develop and exchange this good bishop? Because if you don't do with this, you cannot force him to exchange. He can just keep it there and then it would be very good. So bishop f5, bishop cross f5, white captured this, g cross f5. Now black doesn't want to exchange the queen. See, queen cross was also not that bad, by the way. Queen takes, G cross. It was fine, but Carlsen preferred to keep the queen on the board to keep the tension more, maybe. And he can have a plan, of moving the rook on this side and attack on this side. So let's see what happens. E cross d4 and then knight cross d4. See, he said, yeah, let's exchange the knights as well. Now here, if you take knight cross d4, e cross d4, then the king has to move and then you can't do castle. That's the problem. So he says, no, I don't want to do that. And that's why white plays queen c3. So if black captures the knight, he's saying, okay, I'll take with the queen. I don't want to take with the pawn and open the king on this side. I don't want to make double pawns like this because there is no pawn on this side or this side once I do this. So it's not a good idea. And that's why queen c3 gave support. Rook a d8. So the threat now, yeah, he has this rook on the open file. Anytime he can exchange and then the king will be on the open file and then black can attack well. So let's see what happens next. Rook d2. Yeah, rook d2 was played. Uh, yeah, controlling few important squares like this, like this. This and this with the rook. Queen g6. So the threat is over here now. Okay, he wants to capture queen cross g2. So king f1 gives support, and then f4. F4, the idea is e4, e3, or f3. That's the idea, and it's a dangerous idea. If you would have played directly e4, then there is a problem. Yeah, you can't do it. So first f4, and yes, you can even take this and then you can do e4 and e3. So knight e1, he has to move. He says, yes, I don't want to exchange. So let me keep it there to defend. Queen a6. So attacking this, pinning this. Now the threat can be b5 and then he will capture. Something like this. Yeah, he wants to take advantage of this weak diagonal. He has attacked from there. H4 made space for this rook so that this rook can come out. This rook is like out of the game, doing nothing right now. And then rook c8. Yeah, so this is a weakness, and he said yes, let's attack on it. Yeah, more and more attacks. So there are two attacks and one support. Problems are there. How to save it? b3. But now, if he wants, he can even take this. If you take queen cross a3, then rook h3 can be played. So he didn't take it. He said, yes, I would play this first and I want to take this. b5, king g1. Finally, he has moved the king from there. It was a very risky place for the king because the queen was there on the diagonal. So he moved it. Now b cross c3, b cross c3. And finally, black has got the pawn over here. Okay, so he has now one extra pawn. There is attack on the queen as well. Queen has to move. Queen h3. Queen e6. So once you have extra point, what to do? Very basic thing, important thing you should know. Carlsen plays queen e6 to exchange the queen. Yeah, he knows the basics well. Let's exchange, he says. Once you have extra point, no need to go for the checkmate or no need to go for the attack on some other things. Just exchange the pieces and play very simple game. And yes, king h2 was played and Carlsen said, yes, I don't mind. I will exchange king cross h3. So in that way, he has got the chance to get the king ahead. Yeah, it is kind of end game now. So in the end game, they say, yes, get the king ahead, and that's what he's trying to do. But Carlsen is happy to play the end game anyway. So he says, yes, I will exchange. He exchanged the queen. And now e4 to control these knight squares over here and here. So very good squares control with this. after e4, f3. So he didn't like it. So he said, yeah, either you exchange or I'll exchange it. But I don't want you to have this pawn here and stop my knight from coming over here. So he made attack. But then Carlsen says, yeah, I would have very good connected or supported pass pawn on the sixth rank for him. This is the sixth rank for black. This is the third rank from this side. But if you see from black side, black has this pawn on his sixth rank. So it's very good if it is connected, if it's having support with the other pawn. It's very strong. A rook is attacked, so rook has to move. He played rook d1 and then h5 stopping king from going over here, coming here. So king can't go to g4, king can't go to g3. Now he has to play g3 or g4, something on this side. So instead of playing g3, which was a good move actually, he has played knight d3. Yeah, so he made attack on f4 pawn. But now e2, Carlsen made attack, and it's very dangerous attack now on this side because he has this pawn which can reach on the e1 square anytime because knight c2 and then this rook can attack this knight and then the pawn can move ahead. Rook c3, yes, he made attack. The knight has to move somewhere. He captured this and then knight c2. So you can take the pawn, but you have to give the knight for it. That's what the black has said. Carlsen said yes. If you take it, I'll be happy. Knight d5 was played. Attack this rook c6. Okay, because the threat was knight f6 and a fork. So he had to stop that as well. Knight b4. After rook c6, he made attack on this and he said, yeah, let's exchange the knight. So once the knight will be gone, then I can attack this pawn and do something. But here Carlsen preferred to take the pawn first and then rook cross c6, very interesting. And then knight cross b1, rook cross b1, and then guess what? e1 queen. So lots of exchanges. And then rook has to capture, and then rook takes. And now if you see, Carlsen has a very good advantage here. But yeah, White managed to capture this pawn as well. If you see the position, now there is a situation where black has a rook for White's knight and one pawn. So one extra point black has got already. And yes, he will play the end game now, which is good for black because yes, Carlsen likes that. He likes to play in game king g3, and after that king f7. You have to just get the king ahead in the end game. You should know knight c6, king f6. You should know the distance. Yeah, how to put the king when the opponent's knight is somewhere here. You need to put your king either like this, leaving two squares in the middle. Okay, on this side or on this side or you can keep the king over here or here. Yeah, so somehow, yeah, you should put it like this so that opponent cannot attack easily on the king, at least not with the knight. So he did that. F4, okay, control these squares so the king can't come forward. Rook d1, okay, control these squares so that knight can't come on d4 or d8. King f3, and then king e6, king e3, and now rook e1 check. Interesting. King f2 attack, and then rook e4 attacking the weakness. G3 gives support. King d5 attacks the knight. Knight e5. Okay, now if you see this, black has the advantage, but it's not so easy to win the game because it's looking like, white has given support with this to this, and the knight cannot be captured. You can just move the knight like this, and then it is like a fortress. So he is happy with this, but let's see what happened. Rook a4, and then knight f7. Okay, so yeah, he wants to move the knight like this and then again back and then on this side, something like this. Yeah, he's happy to move the knight here. After this, rook a2 check. Carlsen is giving some checks and trying to confuse the opponent or trying to give some tension. So he might make some mistake. So here, rook a7. You have to play like this in the end game. Yeah, Don't just have single plan, okay, and keep doing it again and again. Instead, have multiple plans, okay. You should know what's happening, and then you confuse the opponent. Once you attack the knight, then you attack the king like that, and then the pawns, and then keep moving everywhere. So the opponent can't understand exactly what's the plan, and then somewhere he can make the mistake, and that's the strategy you can say Carlsen is using right now. He first made attack on the king comes ahead, and then he attacks the knight. Knight has to move. So you have to keep asking questions. Somewhere opponent will give wrong answer, and then you can take the advantage. So here king d4 now. Okay, he can give check from here, but then again he can go back. So here king e2. Now here 96 check was okay. There was no problem. King d5 and again knight g5. So you should play like this, and wait for the opponent to make the progress. Instead, you do anything different. Let him do something different. But here, white is not doing that. White is not trying to go for the draw and play normal, simple, just repetition of the moves. He's not doing that. So that's not a good idea. He should have done it. Rook a2 check. Okay, after king e2, rook a2 check, and then king f3 again, and then rook a3 check, king f2, king d3, knight e6, rook a1, knight c5 attack on the king, king c4, knight e6, king d5, knight g5, rook a6, king e3, king c4, knight f7, rook e6 check, king f2, king d3, knight e5 check, king e4, knight f7. So everything is okay. Okay, this is how he should have played. And yes, and you just keep doing like that. And if you play for 50 moves without any pawn move, without any exchanges, white can make the draw. And it was a good strategy actually. He should have continued. But let's see what happens. So knight g5, king d3. Black has very few plans to, go inside and attack this g3 pawn, which is the weakest one, you can say. It's not so easy to go inside. And that's the problem. Knight f7, rook a7, attacking this. So knight g5 again, rook a2 check, king f3, king d2, king f2, rook c2, knight e6, king d3, king f3, rook c3, king f2, rook c6, knight g5, rook a6, knight f7, rook a2 check, king f3, rook a3, king f2. If you see everything is going as per the plan for white, I would say no problem. Rook a7, the knight has to move, and here he should have played either again knight e5 or knight g5. But here Parham made the mistake, okay, blunder, and he has played knight d6. So if there is no need to change the plan, if you want to make a draw and if you are succeeding in your plan, why do you change it? That's a mistake. Okay, so here somehow I think he has lost his focus or concentration, and he has decided to play different, which was not needed. So not a good idea. Knight d6, and here once you get the chance, you should not leave it then, and that's what Carlsen said. Yes, now I'll not leave. Rook d7 attack. The knight has to move. This is the best move. He plays that. Knight e8, and then rook f7, again forcing him to move the knight somewhere. Okay, if he plays king g2, then king d4. Okay, he can play king d4, and slowly, steadily he can go ahead, and it will be then difficult like this knight is about to be trapped. Okay, because after king d4 and then king d5 or a c5, you can bring afterwards like king c6 and stop him from going anywhere like that. But here he played knight d6 now, rook f6 attack, and then knight d8, and then rook g6, stopping him from going over here, here, here. Now he can only go here. So he's panicked now. He doesn't know what to do, but he should have played the knight right now. He shouldn't wait for this king to come ahead and control that square as well, and then have issues afterwards. So better you should have played that. But here he played king f3. He thought no problem. When the king will go closer, that time I'll move here. I don't have to do anything right now. So king is coming now toward this, you can say. Already these squares are controlled. Now this is the important square which you need to control. Once this is also controlled, then you can go here and attack this and get it free. So here king f2. Okay, he played king f2, king g2 or whatever you would play now. Now it's difficult. If he plays this also, then king c5 can be played. And then you have seen now, see this. All the squares are controlled. And the next move he could just play, like suppose he plays something like king f2, then what can you do? You can play king c6 and force him to go to a6. And then you play this rook d6 maybe. So can he run away? We'll just see. Can he play here? The problem is after that king is c5. Now he can't move here. He can't move here, here, here. The only move either this or this. That's what he can do. And if he plays anything else, he is losing this. And if he moves the knight over there, the problem is you have this rook and it's a fork. So that's why now you can't move here or here. So it's almost like a trap. Okay, this is called like domination. The rook is dominating this knight in this position, and it's very difficult. And now he has understood that, yeah, I have made a mistake. I shouldn't have done all this. I should have stayed here on e5 or g5 and play knight f7, knight e5. But it was too late now. He played here king f2, king c5, and then knight c7, king c6 attack, knight a6, and then a rook d6, king e3. Here, king b5 attack. The knight has to move. He gave this check, and then king b6, and finally he has to move the knight here, because if you go here, then this check and the knight is lost. Yeah, anywhere you move, this is lost. So you can't do that, and that's why he played here. But finally, he understood that king b7 is coming, and after that king b7, Carlsen played that. White couldn't do anything, and White has resigned. Yeah, so because he's just losing the knight, and finally he resigned. So it was a very good game. It was not easy, but because Carlsen had that extra patience, he could finish it. Other players might have taken draw before and allow the opponent to have that extra half point. But Carlsen says no. If you want to get that half point, you have to try your fullest. Okay, all your 100% you have to give, and it's not easy. And that's why White has made a mistake somewhere afterwards. And Carlsen took the advantage of it and he won the game. Okay, it was a wonderful game.